I covered your region in many of my previous videos, and Markham, Vaughan, and Richmond Hill are the biggest neighborhoods. Reasons such as schools, environment, diversity, and energy are all listed there. There are many reasons why your region is one of the many immigrant destinations, but mainly because of the tremendous appreciation. However, there are many people saying just wait for rates to get higher, but these people will eventually be forced to sell at a much lower price due to the market being crashed. I strongly agree, but why are prices so stubborn in this pocket of your region? I feel like sharing my experiences with you after working with multiple clients who were interested in this region. Let's grab a coffee and get into it right after this. Hi there, welcome back to the AV Team Real Estate channel, and as usual, I'm Antonio, the local real estate agent in the GTA. If you don't know by now, I post all related real estate content in Toronto. If you find this helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel so that I can feel it is much more worthwhile to keep creating videos just like this. And of course, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, feel free to book a call with me with the first link in the description, or simply call or text me at the number on the screen and I'm glad to help. Let's address some of the most common questions that have been circulating since the rate hike that started in March this year. If you ask anyone who is looking to purchase in this real estate market, they will most likely tell you that the price has come down and the seller should expect less. However, when they made an offer, the sellers were not budging in and refused to sell. And this is especially true in Markham, Richmond Hill, and Vaughan. As I said before, it is true that prices have dropped, but from what I'm seeing, the main factor for places like Markham or Richmond Hill is that they are long-established destination communities. You will find fewer in neighborhoods like Markham or Richmond Hill than in other neighborhoods where transitional properties may exist as a result of flippers, move up or move down buyers. Many of the houses up for sale in Markham or Richmond Hill or in Vaughan are owned by the type of people who have lived there for maybe 20 to 30 years or more. These houses are often bigger and could be used to raise family until the children move on for college, university, or work. Most likely, these people have no mortgage, or if they have, it is for a little sum. There are also other groups that if they bought the house over 20 years ago, it must have appreciated a lot, and they could use their homes to pull a line of credit to either help their kids or as a deposit for new properties. Additionally, there are other groups who are likely already retired, spending maybe 6 months or more abroad in Florida or Asia, and who may already own multiple properties. In short, these people are not under any financial strain and may continue to live in their homes without having to sell them. Now, of course, there are other groups that just purchased the home or maybe 3 or 4 years ago and could still have a big mortgage and may have invested in upgrading the property for rentals and are now feeling the pressure. However, the majority of this particular type of neighborhood is established. They just don't have the financial pressure. If those are listing their property are just trying to see if they could get what they want, but if not, then they will cancel the listings. That is why we have seen a record low in sales and a high number of terminated transactions. This is the period of time when a savvy realtor is important. Your realtor needs to understand the motives of the seller in order to formulate a strategy for the buyer. From working with a few buyers in the Markham area, most of the sellers did not want to lower the price, and we could take a look at the numbers so far with the just released October market statistics and further confirm the behavior of the seller. Here is the data that I extracted from all home types in Markham. That include detached, semi-detached, townhouses, and condos. For percentage change, we are comparing the increase or decrease based on the previous month. This could give you the more recent activities as opposed to those from the past year or more when the market situation is way different. As you can see, the Markham average prices started the year at $1,510,000, a positive of 5.61% change from last year. When the market is hot, the active listings are usually lower since they are selling so fast. And we can also see the number of sales is sitting at 219, which is not very high, but it's sort of a normal during the winter and beginning of the year. Moving on to February, this is when Markham reached the peak in average prices at $1,559,000. The momentum carried on, and it was a positive 3.12 percentage point change from the previous month. And new listings are cramping up to 694 since the interest rate hike hike is about to be announced. It also recorded the second highest number of transactions so far this year at 356 sales. Usually, there will be a delay in reaction on the real estate market after a rate hike, but in March, Markham had a decline right away that went down to 8.78% to 1,433,000. It recorded the highest 490 sales. Remember, the group that I mentioned earlier were people that are looking to sell in a short time and are more financially stressed from carrying a big mortgage. These people are looking to sell as soon as possible, even at a slight dip in price that resulted in an 8% average price decline. Moving on to April with another 0.50 point rate hike, surprisingly the average price leveled off and had a small bounce of 1.91% up. But we can also start to see active listing numbers starting to go up. More and more listings are starting to not sell because the remaining sellers are not as financially stressed, and those that could afford to wait and see are doing so. As I described earlier in the video, we could also see this in the sales, where there was a big drop from 490 sales to 293 sales in April. That is a big 67% drop from the previous month. In May and June, the average prices also trended down, but not as significantly. But the overall pattern remained where the active listings were still around the high 500s to over 600s, and the number of sales were still hovering in the 200s. And in July, we had the most surprising rate hike at a full basis point, and the average price dropped to 1,233,000, with the second highest percentage drop of 8.49% since March. As we expected, the new listing dropped another 175. It may sound a little, but it has a big impact, and once again the sales dropped to 216. And from then on, we can see in August we had even a slight increase in average price to 1,273,000, and sale had a slight increase to 270. Like I said, the remaining sellers are quite stubborn about reducing the price, and they are not under pressure to sell it. It sounded like a broken record, but even with the rate hike in September and October, the average prices remain unchanged, and the active listing, new listing, and sales were similar. In fact, there was a slight increase in October compared to the previous month. Let's compare the average price from October of 1,282,000 to the peak in February of 1,559,000. So far in Markham, we have a total of negative 22% drop. But don't forget, we are comparing to the peak where the average prices went extremely high due to many reasons I discussed in prior video, when many people moved to your region or further GTA homes because of COVID and they could work from home. If you ask for my opinion, I never thought the speed of the price increase could sustain itself in the long term. Oh, before I forget, I hope you enjoy my analysis and market updates. I spent quite some time extracting the information and putting it together. So if you like the content, please like the video and consider subscribing to our channel so that I could keep creating videos just like this. Now, let's look at the Richmond Hill. Overall, if you compare the average price, Richmond Hill is a little bit more expensive than Markham. They started the year with 1,670,000, up 7.13% over the last year. And as you can see, there were lowest active listing at 160 as the market was quite hot and sales were at 207. Here we saw a little dip in the average price in February, even though the rate hike was not announced, and it sat at 1,545,000 with a negative 4.65% decline. We still have the second lowest number of active listings this year at 331. Also, the number of new listings is trending up at 552. The number of sales was also the second highest so far in the year. For a strange reason, in March, the average price jumped a little to 1,585,000 with a positive 2.54%. But the active listings started to trend up to 429, and new listings were the highest so far in the year at 684. As a result, we had the highest sales in March at 319. Since April, for another rate hike, we saw a dip in average price to 1,489,000 with a negative 6.49%. And once again, the active listings were up to 525 and the new listing at 582, and the sale were down 121 from the previous month to 198. That is a similar trend to that of Markham as well. Since then, we started to see the same pattern as Markham with the average price hovering around 1.490 million. But seeing the biggest dip in June at negative 10.12% to 1.353 million. The active listings are still at 572 and new listings are at 472. But we saw the second lowest number of sales at 163. The largest increase in interest rates in July didn't affect Richmond Hill much, and the average price jumped a little to 1,443,000 with a positive 6.2%. The active listing remained similar at 525, but new listings came back down to 343 and sales went down further to 146. In August, the average price came down to 1,367,000, a decrease of 5.53% over the last month. The active listings started to trend down at 436 and new listings also went down to 310. However, the sales went up a little to 187. After two consecutive rate hikes in September and October, the average price in October managed to stay at 1,317,000 with a negative 8.24% decline, which was the lowest average price so far this year. Active listing at 404 and new listing at 309. Also recorded the lowest sales in the year at 138. In similar fashion, the sellers in Richmond Hill, like those in Markham, are much more stubborn about reducing home prices, and they either leave the homes on the market for a longer period or cancel the listings. The average price in October was 1,317,000 compared to the peak in January at 1,617,000, a difference of negative 22.77%. Like I said, I picked the peak of the market, which happened to be in January in Richmond Hill. Now, moving on to Vaughan. We started the year with an average price of 1,504,000, an increase of 8.31% from last year. Active listings are also the fewest in the year at 240 and 370 new listings respectively. Sales remain low at 233 since it is the slowest season for real estate in the new year. Vaughan reached the peak of its average price in February at 1,607,000, an increase of positive 6.39%, with relative few active listings at 374 and 692 new listings. Sales were healthy, coming in at the second highest level at 446. In March, after the rate hike, we saw the first dip in average price to 1,548,000, a decrease of negative 3.79%. Active listings started to trend up to 550, with the highest number of new listings at 1,032. Sales were also the highest at 505 as more people looked to sell as soon as possible. In April, we saw the largest dip of negative 8.06% to the average price of 1,433,000, and the active listing and new listing remained high. But we also saw the big drop in sales down to 336 in April. The pattern remained the same throughout, and in September, we reached the lowest average price of 1,231,000. After the latest interest rate hike in October, the average price remained around 1,251,000 with a slight increase of positive 1.58%, but recorded the lowest number of sales of the year at 187. Here's a quick comparison of the three main neighborhoods in your region that we discussed in this video so far, which dates from October. Richmond Hill average price are still the highest at 1,317,000 and 247. Then in second place we have Markham at 1,282,561, and finally Vaughan at 1,251,000 and 465. Working actively with multiple clients that were looking in this area, I noticed that the sellers tend to be more stubborn about lowering their prices, but they are adapting to the interest rate hike. And for those that need to sell, they are already done. Can prices continue to drop? Yes, but my prediction would be pretty comparable to the pricing we saw in October. I hope you can find some valuable information through this market update, and if you have any inquiries about the current state of the real estate market in the GTA, feel free to reach out to me using the first link in the description or leave me a message in the comment section. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.